here. Thank you so much for making space in your Saturday to join me with Logan. If it's your first time here, I'm Xanthi, the Feral Academic, and this is the podcast where we are feral, honest, and anti bullshit. And I'm currently doing a PhD in horror in the UK. And today we have summoned Mr. Logan-Ashley Kisner. He's a horror aficionado and transgender author of young adult novels, which focus on trans kids surviving horrors, supernatural or otherwise. He is the author of Old Wounds, a Lammy nominee, The Transition, a Lammy and Ignite Award nominee, and the forthcoming Trans, Panic, and Docile Creatures. His fiction and nonfiction historical work has been published or featured on Dread Central, Pace Magazine, Crime Reads, and The Guardian. Logan-Ashley writes from his hometown of Las Vegas, where he remains alongside his husband and their two cats, Chicken and Gimli. I know Logan because he kindly guested on my other podcast, Kindergeist, a few years ago, and we had talked about how Evil Dead was very transcoded. So we'll open up for questions at the end, but if you don't want to forget them, feel free to post them in the comments or the Q&A box. And without further ado, please welcome Logan.
You just said that my video box went away. That was really
Oh, that's
funny. I'm like, no, wait.
it's like yes, yes. Yay, party. All right, so I'll start with one that I asked people. What does the phrase feral academic mean to you?
Feral academic works really good for me as a term just because when I get into the thing that I am like very passionate and focused about, I do feel to a degree feral. Especially with trans horror, that was a COVID fixation and just I had nothing else to focus on or do, and so it just like became all consuming and still I kind of get that itch sometimes where I'm like, I haven't scratched
Yeah.
this in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's such a good thing because I feel like when I'm alone, I feel like I'm quite feral, and so I've been trying to come out and be like, this is who I am. So I totally get that, especially
Oh yeah,
during COVID. You know, that's a
the
tough
second anyone else gets involved, you're like, oh, right, feral.
feral. Yeah, but yeah, you before we get into like your main work now of being like a published author, which is yay, several times now, exciting. Um, I wanted to go into your independent research. So can you tell us about like your research in horror and how you got started on that?
Yeah, so when I hit college, I wasn't really doing as much fiction writing as I did in high school and like youth, I guess. And so a lot of my focus in writing went to nonfiction stuff, and it was kind of just like trans things in general. And then COVID hit. I watched like two or three very similar movies with trans killers in them around the same period of time. And then that kind of started the fixation of, okay, what is like this specific trope of like trans killers in horror? And then that kind of blossomed out into just like trans characters overall, because the Venn diagram of overlap there is like almost a perfect circle. Because
Yeah.
especially historically, like that is just mostly what trans characters were in horror, was either primarily a killer, every once in a while, like a one-off side character, especially in like giallos. And it's not until very recently that we've gotten like pretty standard side characters or protagonists or love interests or more general archetypes besides killer and extra.
Mhm.
And
Totally.
then, yeah, I've done less of it as my life has become more consumed with books, but I still kind of keep up with it. The Patreon has been a huge help in that just because I am obligated to twice a month sit down and think about this stuff.
Yeah, no, I think that's so like really iconic to be honest, to be like just anyone that kind of like just doesn't have to go through a system and be like, I'm a scholar and I'm doing the work. And I so yeah, and speaking of your Patreon, like do you have any tips for people for I guess indie scholars who are trying to do the same thing? Like they don't want to go to university, they don't resonate, but they want to, yeah, have like a separate mode of yeah, outcome or output rather.
Yeah, for me, the Patreon isn't a like a money-making source or anything. It's just something for me to like keep myself accountable mostly because what I would do in the past was either solely focus on trans horror and just kind of burn myself out, or once I would get out of that mode, it'd be hard for me to like focus back into it. And so for me, it's been nice to kind of set it up like, okay, twice a month you look at two movies and that's just kind of it. And then that keeps a nice cap on it. And then for me, I just kind of did it and put it onto the websites I had access to. So for a long time, that was Medium because they were a good, just like publish
Mhm.
yourself. It doesn't cost anything to join. You can pay for membership if you want to, but for the most part, it's just kind of free to read. And then from there, other people started like, hey, we saw this. Are you interested in doing X, Y, and Z? So like that created podcast opportunities, that created like opportunities for other websites to like, I can write for this website. I can do like a feature post or something like that. And so just finding ways to put yourself out there and just kind of either marketing yourself if you can. I'm not good at marketing myself, so I'm very much a put it out there and let it go out to ocean, kind of like a message in a bottle. And eventually it's going to find the people who want to or need to find it, and they come to you then for it.
No, I think that's great. Because I also like the idea that you're using it as your personal accountability, to be like, I made a commitment that I was going to do this every month. Um,
There are people who pay for it. I do need to do this for them.
yeah, which is great. So, no, I think that's so, yeah, it's just really uh like the self-starter mentality of like not, yeah, just being I'm researching, I'm doing this thing,
Yeah.
and
I'm doing
people,
this because it means something to me. It doesn't necessarily have to be like sellable or marketable. It's just something that matters to me. And once I have done it, I am happy.
yeah. On in contrast, like how do you feel about university? Or do you feel like you controversial question in this podcast?
I wish I had the chance to do mine again because COVID split my time in half. So I spent 2 years up in the north side of my state and then the last two down here finishing out. And I very much at the time viewed it as just like, I need to get through this because to have a job, I need a degree. As like the mentality is just kind of everywhere now. And so I'm just like, okay, I'm here to get my degree. I will take the occasional bullshit classes that aren't related to English and then care really, really hard about English.
Mm,
And the English classes were very helpful. That is where I found a bunch of good friends. That's where I saw like sit down, present us with some writing and get some feedback. And that was the first place I really got feedback for my debut novel. And that was really helpful to like put that out into a smaller focus group and get feedback just on the initial chapters and like characterization. And some of those people were like some of my earliest beta readers for some of the first versions of that book. And that was
mm,
very helpful. But I wish I had taken it a bit more seriously and like focused more on like, okay, I want classes for X, Y, and Z to like where my career kind of is now, where it's a lot different than like where I started at 18, going to Reno and being like, I don't know what any of this is.
oh, oh, so you went to Reno.
Mhm.
My family, I have like
Oh,
family
nice.
literally there. So
Yeah, I liked Reno. I liked that kind. Vegas has no weather. I like being anywhere with weather and terrain.
yes.
Here we're flat and hot. But no, Reno was a really good college. I wish that COVID had not ended up cutting my time short, but UNLV is still pretty good too. I liked UNLV. And
Oh.
I'm not anti-university, I promise.
No, I mean, if you were like, this is a safe space to
Logan
say,
loves him.
to be anti-academia. But yeah, so if we shift into like the horror genre, like how do you feel about the current representation of horror movies and yeah, representation? Since you talked about how you first started noticing it before.
Ooh. So I will first put a disclaimer that I am famously bad at keeping up to date on anything. I tell people I'm like, I have not seen movies that have come out in the last 5 years, but I have seen like Curse of the Queer Wolf twice, like just weird things that make me very hard to talk to about movies. Um, but I have, so kind of circling back to Evil Dead and like that kind of new wave of things. I wrote a Substack article a little while ago about Schrodinger's transsexual. Kind of about how the current state we're in, we're seeing a lot more trans actors and trans creatives in the genre. And it's been interesting to see that not entirely like one to one equate to seeing more trans characters, where we're seeing these actors come in and their characters aren't necessarily trans, or we're interpreting them as trans because we recognize the trans actor, but the character itself was not necessarily written to be that way, or something in that similar vein. And so that's been kind of interesting to where I feel like we skipped the step of like seeing that like representation, and now we've hit like the post-trans representation of like, well, they don't have to be defined by their gender or anything like that. And I'm like, but I feel like we should have had that brief period of time where that thing was a thing and not just skipped from there's nothing to now we're post having to even deal with that. And I mean, I think obviously the part of that is just like the state of the world gestures
Yeah.
vaguely to the everything. Um, and not having to deal with that explicitly, I think, makes it sometimes easier for things to get made and done. And just like in the business world, it is sometimes easier to be like, you can interpret it as this, but we're not necessarily going to like say it outright because that's how you get in trouble.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it's been an interesting shift from what it has been before. And we are still seeing like the occasional bit of like, hey, this is intentional representation. Yay, good to see. But it's not like a continuous wave. It definitely kind of ebbs and flows depending on the year and where things come out and when and the funding and the all of the fun behind the scenes stuff that nobody likes to think about.
Yeah. No, that's so real. Because I remember like last time we spoke on about like Evil Dead and Kindergeist, I think I remember you said we're at a point where there's no stereotypes of trans
Yeah,
because there's not anything, or even trans film, I feel like you're speaking of in general. So,
yeah.
and now it's skipped. Like what happened? Like
Yeah,
yeah.
my friend Louise, who does the castration movies, we've talked a bit about how like there is a trans film language, but there isn't at the same time, just because everyone is so varied and there's so little and everyone has their own interpretation and spin on it. It's hard to really define it, but at the same time, like when you sit down with it and sit down with some of these like bigger films, you can kind of see that connective tissue. It's just kind of the difference of like, how do we categorize this thing that is so impossible to categorize kind of just inherently?
Yeah. It's such a complex, yeah, area. And it's like the more you look into it, the more complex it gets, you know. So,
Yeah, it is a headache.
but yeah, since you said you don't really watch a lot of like movies lately, do you read more books? Or what's your
I
yeah.
kind of fluctuate. So I am engaged to a man who does not like horror that much. So I have we have split our time as best we can between my horror movies and his everything else. And I'm getting a lot used to watching movies in the morning while he sleeps. I'm like, okay, he is not going to enjoy Borderlands, the Mexican horror movie about oh God, I literally just watched it 2 days ago. Based on a true story, cult in the
Mm.
Southern Hemisphere, very hostile coded. And I'm like, okay, he's
Okay.
not gonna fuck with this. Let me just put this on at night when he's sleeping, and I'll watch this on my own and kind of get that out of there. But no, it ebbs and flows. More recently, I have been focused either on writing or on just trying to relax. Because I am a person where if I am not actively working, I'm stressed out about all the time that I'm losing by not actively working. And
Relatable.
so watching movies becomes kind of a job, reading books kind of becomes part of a job, especially when like half my TBR pile is books that I want to read for either research or just like connections to books I want to write. So I have a lot of hockey books kind of left over from the transition. I have a lot of summer camp books kind of messing around. I have a couple of 1950s and like historical books sitting around for other books, and just like knowing that I have to like, okay, I have to read these and I have to like actually think about it and like highlight things and mark things and make sure that I have like notes to come back to later when I'm drafting. Everything kind of becomes part of the job.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm trying to split it more equitably between everything so I'm not burning myself out on a particular stick, because when I get burned out, that becomes a problem where I need to go to it and then I am reluctant to.
Yes. Oh, yeah. That's such yeah, when I'm doing my research, it's like I have to I'm well after this phase because I am a practice researcher, so I have the written part and the documentary. But
Okay.
after this documentary phase, it's going to be full on reading and reading and reading and writing and writing. And I'm already like with the reading I've had to do, I'm just like, oh, it's kind of like made me a little like book, what do you call it, tired? Like
Yeah, exhausted.
fatigue.
Just
Yeah,
burned
yeah.
out.
And so, but now I like listen to audiobooks when I'm trying
Okay,
to
yeah.
listen to long.
Audiobooks do help too.
Yeah, so yeah. Speaking of, I'm gonna jump around since you mentioned burnout. Like, what's your plan, your method that you use to try to keep your, yeah, mental health in a safe place?
Definitely still working on that one, good Lord.
Like we all are. Yeah.
No, yeah, with my first two books, I was very lucky in that they were mostly already written by the time we sold them, so it was pretty much just edit and go. And then I discovered with books three and four that I am not good at drafting on deadlines. And so that hit very hard. It was very humbling. And so now that I am through that pit of glass, and just kind of right now I'm working on books that I haven't sold yet. So there's no timeline. There's just me and Microsoft Word.
Mm,
And for that, I have like there's a word count little tracker that another author put out, that just kind of like charts your progress, and it gives you like if you're writing 1,000 words a day, here's what this looks like. If you're writing 2,000 a day, here's what this looks like. And it just kind of like it's a nice tracker to like, okay, if I want to be done with this book by X point in time, I need to be writing this consistently.
mm,
Um, and also just making like I can feel it physically when I start to get burned out or like tired. And I'm like, okay, I need to be conscious enough of this to be able to step away, like do anything else, whether that's sit on the couch, watch like non-thought intensive TV, or just like be on my phone, do other things, um, read books that aren't necessarily related to research and just something I want to read for fun and not have the voice in my head. Because that's another thing that happens when you're an author is that all of a sudden every book like has changed slightly to
mm.
where if you're like older books are kind of fine, contemporary books, I like the Pokemon fight music comes on for some reason. I'm like, you are not in competition with these authors. I don't know why my brain like gets the self-defensive itch of like, well, look how good this book is. And I have to continually like shut that down because otherwise I would never read. And I'm like, this is not a competition. Just read the fucking book. Um, but yeah, division of time is my biggest struggle and it still is a thing, but I'm working on it. I have finally started medication to try and focus on my attention difficulties because I find it very hard to focus on things for long periods of time. I am much more a half start 17 tasks and try and finish like three of them. And so we've been working to try and kind of thin that a bit.
Yeah. Wait, are you a fellow neurodivergent?
Only
Okay.
like tiniest
Okay.
bit.
Tiny. Yeah, oh my gosh. Like, uh, because since I'm in the UK, I can't like get medication here.
Oh gosh.
Because they're like the to get diagnosed in the UK, I think that most people have to wait like 9 years. Like it's very,
Yeah, that sounds right.
yeah. So I was like, nah, and so I'm trying to I'm gonna get some through the US when I get back or visit
Okay.
home. But yeah, I'm curious how it'll help because a lot of people will say, yeah, when you wake up, like there's like I have like for me, when I wake up, a tons of thoughts come in. I'm like, oh, I have to
Yeah.
do this, I have to do that. And then and I have this 17 project starter problem too. And so I'm like, okay, yeah. So you feel like it's helping.
Yeah, and it's not like I have sole singular focus on this one particular thing, but like I take my meds in the morning, and so it is a lot easier to like recognize the thought of, oh, I want to focus on this, and then try and narrow my jumping around to things at least related to the main topic. So like if I'm writing and I'm like, I kind of don't really want to focus on this page right now, I'll either like, okay, let's look at Spotify, let's like listen to music related to it, let's open Pinterest, let's enhance the board about this, let's try and I have a Google Doc right now where I'm trying to figure out the monster of my next book. I'm like, okay, there's still plenty of research you need to do on this. Let's try and like read some of these articles that you bookmarked. Let's try and stay at least in the same ballpark of the idea, even if you're not necessarily like on the plate you need to be. Works
Yes.
best for us.
Yes, yes, yes. I was wondering if uh like you're when you're working with like deadlines and the the people who decide these things, like, do you do, because like deadlines are such an anti ADHD thing, um like, have you experienced people you've been working with that are compassionate about that, or do you feel like you
Oh,
choose
yeah.
not to disclose? Okay, cool.
Extremely compassionate. No, my agent has told me twice now. She's like, if you need to push a deadline, you are allowed to push a deadline because my last draft that I turned in was not fully written. I hit like the day before the deadline, and I'm like, it was the issue of there was too much book to still write, more than I thought there had been. Ideas just kept coming, which was better than the last book where I could not like draw the words out of me to save my life.
Mhm.
And so I turned it in with, I'm like, okay, and these chapters aren't written, but here's what happens in them. And my agent's like, you are allowed to push a deadline. Do not do that to yourself. I know everyone has been extremely like, yep, there's no problem. Like, we will move a deadline, we'll move a publication date. Like, we are good. Take care of yourself. And see, it's interesting. I can't work without a deadline sometimes
Yeah.
because my brain's like, well, there's no deadline. What's the rush? And then as soon as the deadline hits, I'm like, I have the deadline. I was very
Yeah.
much a write the essay on the last day that it was due in high school kind of person.
Mm. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I have yeah, I work better on deadlines most of the time. But
It
I
depends
think,
on the deadline. It depends on the thing.
yeah, it depends how invested I am. But like thinking about university, like that's why I feel like that's one of the things that universities should be more flexible with, is
Yeah.
because like you got to test. Some people don't take tests well. Some people can't do deadlines, and I feel
Yeah.
like there should be more, yeah, understanding in that sense. So it's so nice that your team is very aware of like what doesn't work for you. So that's so nice.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to like talk about sleepaway camp, since it's like the inspo for your latest book. Yeah, I before we get into that, it's interesting because I thanks for sending over your
Yes.
writing ahead of time, and so you introduced that immediately of like it's very much like about like trans experience, and also I like that you put the content notes in there, because it's going to be intense in some areas. And then, but what I'm curious is because I hear with sleepaway camp is that some trans folks will say it's transphobic, but then some trans folks will say it's no, it's trans representation. But you fall in the latter. So I'm curious, like how you, yeah, how you see these conversations or how you feel about the film.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was emailing with somebody earlier this week, and I'm like, we're in kind of a weird resurgence for Sleepaway Camp. We have the remake that's been announced, and I know that they have announced a remake like 4 different times over the last 20 years, but this one feels like it's actually might go somewhere with it, so that's been interesting. Official novelization just came out last year too, and so like it feels like the thoughts of the movie are more in the water of collective thought than they normally have been outside of like horror circles necessarily. Um, no, it's interesting. I see a lot of that divide, more among cis and trans people than necessarily among the same camp. So like I've seen a lot of well-intended cis people been like very passionate about sleepaway camp and like the nuances of its politics. And then the trans people that I'm friends with were like, yeah, this film was great. And that's kind of the end of the discussion. No, it's interesting because I read, I can't pull his name off the top of my head, but the guy who runs the Sleepaway Camp fan website who kind of helped rejuvenate it back in the late 2000s. He has a little section in the book about like the trans or the queer angle of the original film. Um, and there's just kind of an evasiveness about it where like, well, we don't want to say that it was intentional or and really the character's not trans because X, Y, and Z, and like we don't really take the sequels into account because the original creator wasn't really involved in those. He just kind of sold the rights off. Um, and just kind of like dismisses it as a concept rather than like really going into it. And the original screenplay is not available anywhere that I can find, so I can't really. And even then, even if we could find it, one of the things about Sleepaway Camp is it kept getting rewritten a lot on set, like as they were going. And so, where the idea of Angela being Peter may have come from, if that was an original idea or not. It's kind of hard to parse out. Um, but no, it's interesting. I enjoyed the film so much because even outside of Angela, there is just this kind of collective queerness, for lack of better phrasing, to all of the characters, whether you want to focus on like the guys in the crop tops that get popular on Twitter every couple of weeks when people are like, why don't men dress like this anymore? Or like Judy's whole fixation on Angela to the point where she is like actively ignoring the boys trying to get with her, and just all these weird relationships within the film, like even outside of Angela, are very interesting and not necessarily typical of like your heterosexual camp slasher. And even just like I love the movie so much for how it looks and for how it deals or doesn't deal with certain topics. Like one of the things I've said is we have all thought more about Sleepaway Camp than Robert Hiltzik ever has or will. And he created it, but just like there's so much subtext, whether intended or not, that is in this on the surface very simple slasher that I find very fascinating.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I feel like just based on what you said alone, like you could even do like a whole, well, you did. Actually, I was going to say you could do a novel about it. And it's like, wait a minute, but you didn't do it behind the scenes. You did it in your own way, which is even better. So, a good segue into can you tell us, yeah, about like trans panic and yeah, like what kind of like brought you to this point of writing? Yeah.
Yeah. So this one has been bouncing around my head for a couple of years. If for no other reason than every trans person I know has a version of a sleepaway camp reboot that they would like to see. Like everyone is like, if I had my chance, this is how I do it. And then in actuality, it is near impossible to get that done in like a film context. And so as I got more into novel writing, I'm like, okay, things are a lot easier in the world of adaptation for novels than they are for film. Film is a whole different ballpark. Writing is just kind of like, yeah, go do it. Like, you're fine. And so I wanted to do my own reimagining of Sleepaway Camp, and I'm like, okay. And then I want to say around the same time was when They Slash Them came out. A film I have seen like 5 times through various poorly thought out nights. And that film, I think, in tandem with Sleepaway Camp, kind of like overlapped into this. Because in queer films set at camp, it's typically conversion therapy stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that setting inherently. I just wasn't really interested in doing anything like that. And then with Sleepaway Camp, I'm like, okay, we have this camp full of kids and one singular trans person who, oops, they're the killer. And so my thought was inverting that. And so in Trans Panic, it is specifically a trans camp full of trans kids. Um, and I wanted to play with the expectation of, okay, now everything that you are coming into this book with your own experience in this genre of the singular trans character is typically the killer historically. Now everyone's trans, that kind of assumption is leveled, and you're kind of just left with these characters and them trying to figure out who now the killer is at their summer camp and what their motivation is.
Yeah, no, I love that. It's kind of like you, yeah, I feel like you kind of made your own as yeah, you're very much a self-starter because you're like, I love Sleepaway Cat. I don't need permission to
Oh
like
no, yeah, I am motivated out of spite more than anything. Like I will see something and I'm like, you're not doing this right. Fucking move. Let me do it.
I love that because I feel like so many people fall into this camp of like I'm pulling out all the dad jokes thing. Of like, oh, they won't like email me back or they won't consider me. And it's just, well, why just do it anyway, and it's
Yeah.
gonna be better. So yeah. I wonder, yeah, like for the upcoming reboot, yeah, what would you imagine is like doing it right? And is there a risk? What would be doing it wrong?
So my apprehension immediately hit when they said that they were bringing Robert Hiltzik back to write and direct it. Just because through the grapevine, through talking to people involved in the industry, I had a person I talked to a couple of years ago who wrote her own Sleepaway Camp reimagining, and we discussed that a bit. And it was kind of the discussion of he is not in film anymore, but this is his baby, and he will not let it go. And so seeing that now, and I'm like, totally get it. These are my babies. Don't touch them. Um, and then, I mean, obviously, in my heart, I view Angela as a trans character, even if not in that first film, then subsequently through the sequels.
Mhm.
Um, and I would be interested. I think we're going to know if this is a good or bad movie based on who they cast in the various roles. If we are seeing a cast of cis people, then we're gonna know either, okay, they have just completely eliminated this aspect to the story, or they're doing what they did before and having probably some poor drunk college student in a girl mask again, naked on a beach.
Mhm.
And so I think once the cast list comes out, we'll have an idea of our expectations. And then as the trailer comes, as things come out, we can adjust those expectations. But for me, at least, I'm waiting to see who they're casting. And then if that cast list even comes out, again, they've announced a remake for this movie like 3 or 4 times that just kind of fizzles out and goes nowhere. So we'll see where this one goes, if it goes anywhere. But
Mhm.
I am cautiously optimistic, but realistically pessimistic.
Yeah. No, fair enough. Yeah. That's a good like just kind of like seeing what they do. And I feel like if they did they announce that they had any like trans creatives on the project yet?
Not to my recollection. My recollection is the Variety article where they announced Robert Hilton coming back, and then Kenan Thompson's production company being behind it.
Hmm.
And I guess that's another side bar that I have is everyone talks about Sleepaway Camp as if it were an intentional comedy, and the sequels obviously go into that more like intended campiness. Um, I enjoy the original Sleepaway Camp for kind of just, I don't think much of it was meant to be funny, maybe originally, and then it became funny through the acting, through the delivery of certain lines. My friends and I do quote this movie at each other in various ways just because the way that lines are said are comical. But I don't think the story itself is very intentionally comedic, and so that's another like slight reservation I have. I'm like, okay, these are a comedic duo kind of that are producing this film. I hope they don't make this a horror comedy and they just kind of try and play it as straight as they can. But that's another way I'm reservedly pessimistic. I'm like, okay, you got to be ready for this to be a comedy and it's not going to be a funny one and we're just going to have to sit there and sit through it.
Oh no, it's gonna be yeah, a bit painful, but then yeah, because his production company is comedy, right? Like is it?
I'd have to look. I want to say I looked, and the other film they're attached to is like a biopic of Macho Man Randy Savage.
Okay.
Which is very different from Sleepaway Camp, but I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, that maybe isn't inherently comedic, question
Okay.
mark.
Yeah,
I don't know. We'll see.
maybe there's some hope there. Yeah. Oh, well, they I feel like they should hire you as the consultant because you know everything about
I'm
it.
available.
I know, right? It's like, hello, could send them the novel and be like, hire me because I know the story. Yeah. But when like folks read Trans Panic, like what do you want them to take away from it?
Ooh. So this book changed so much from when I originally conceived of it versus when it went through edits. And I was talking with someone about this recently, but just like the way things changed in it, and one particular character's fate that changed from the start of it to the end of it, and I'm like, this could have happened to this character, and I could have made it work because I would have wanted the message to be X, Y, and Z. But I
Mm,
think them ultimately surviving kind of is helpful for the moment that we're in versus the moment that I started writing this in because things have changed a lot for trans kids from 2020, 2021 to now to when this book is going to come out next spring.
mhm,
And so I want the message more to just be like, these are trans kids going somewhere to feel safe, and that safe spot has been infiltrated and desecrated, and it is no longer what it once was.
mhm,
But that does not mean that their entire community has shattered and fallen apart. That does not mean that there is nowhere for them. And that does not mean that that place of safety cannot once again become a safe space. It just has to be rebuilt and reworked. Um, and so that message of things are going to suck, things are not going to be what they always were, but just I feel like perseverance, bolded, italicized, underlined, is my continual theme with a lot of my books is like, yes, it sucks, but you really just got to keep fucking going, and eventually you'll look back and that was 5 years ago, and you're okay again, and things keep going because it's hard to conceptualize time like that as a teenager, as someone who was a teenager, allegedly, apparently.
We
um,
don't know. Yeah.
and like closeted in high school, it was very difficult to conceptualize, like, hey, in 10 years, you're going to be in your own house writing books. It was very much a how do I get to the end of next month? And so trying to focus on that time passes, whether you want it to or not, and you can survive it. You just have to keep going forward and pushing through it, even if you don't want to.
Yeah. No, that's like so it's resilience. Yeah,
Yeah,
like focusing
resilience.
on stories of resilience. And yeah, like there's a lot of focus in uh like even in if we're talking about academia of like what are you doing next, what are you doing that, but it's like
Yep.
I'm trying to just survive first.
Yep.
And so yeah, like since you mentioned that, like have you you had never imagined that you would be where you are now, like young you think?
Oh God, no. Not until, first of all, I would not have imagined I was a guy until I was about like 17 or 18. So this would have been a surprise to the fourth grade of me who started writing books. Again, out of spite, because I would, do you remember the journals of like girls that they would publish? Like famous girls, like Anastasia's Diaries, or like
Oh,
those.
I
Yeah.
totally forgot about those. Yeah.
Yeah, I read those in elementary school, and I read the back of the book one day, and it's like, this is fully fictionalized, and it pissed me off because I'm like, what do you mean you just made up a diary? And so that's like really what got me into writing was just like irritants of that. And again, spite is the other through line beside perseverance, spite and perseverance. Um, but yeah, I wrote books just kind of for fun and to get it out of my head through elementary and middle school. High school, it was fan fiction because I was embarrassed to be creating my own things, and it was easier to post on AO3 than it was to like carry a notebook around like I did in middle school. And then college, I came back to it, and I'm like, it'd be great if I could do this, but it's probably not going to happen. And then to have it happen, to have it continue to happen, like I didn't think I was going to have a Wikipedia page, but I do now. And that's an insane thought, an insane reality to like grapple with as I make my breakfast sandwich in the morning. Like, oh, I have a Wikipedia page and here's my egg. Like
Yeah.
these thoughts shouldn't coexist in the same universe.
Yes, like like literally. It's like, oh, that's so amazing. Yeah, like thinking about like young you and how much has changed since then. And even in a short amount of time, like you mentioned 5 years ago, so or even like maybe even 2 years ago, I feel like
Yeah. And
so
like even then,
much.
like writing is such a isolated activity by
Mhm.
itself. Like you can do it with other people around you. You can like talk to other writers, but at the end of the day, like you're the one who's sitting down writing the text. And so it's hard to conceptualize success in this field, I think. And so seeing markers like a Wikipedia page randomly popping up or like getting emails off the website contact box or just like seeing other people connect with and respond to things like that is hard to see sometimes, but when you get it, it's like, oh, okay, I'm not just burning paper for someone else's paycheck. Like there are people actually reading this and connecting with it and remembering my name enough to like look out for the next book.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like what has been the most meaningful like reader interaction, or if there's several, feel free.
Um, the ones that stick out to me the most are the ones that come from kids. Because it's a thing with young adult where like I read young adult and it's like a 35-year-old woman who gets personally offended when the book isn't like curated to her. And so there were a few reviews we have to read through it. I'm like, great, you're not my target audience. Glad you read it. Thank you for buying. You're not my target audience. Whether or not you like it or not does not register in my brain when I am creating this. Um, what matters to me is like the trans kids reach out to me, whether they are out and happy in their life. A lot of them aren't. A lot of them are very closeted. Their names don't match their emails, and they're like, "Hey, I can't buy your books, but I've got a hold of one of them through the library, and I read this. Like, by the time your next book comes out, I get to read the next one, like on my own. Like, thank you for representing me in this character or this character." And even like my best friend recently came out as a trans woman, and we talked a lot about spoilers for the transition, but one of the characters in it realizes she's a trans person halfway through the book.
Mhm.
Um, and in the sequel that I would love to write, the book would follow her and like her grappling with this as the monsters come around again. And we're the same age. We've been with each other for years, and seeing her really deeply emotionally connect with that character was something I was not expecting and something that like made a warm fire in my heart a little bit. Cause like, oh, I write for trans kids, but I also write for trans people across the board. And like, trans kids is also a weird thing to try and define because yes, it means literal trans children, but so many of us had really weird or strange childhoods because of that internal grappling with dysphoria to the point where like we are kind of going through a second childhood and adolescence when we do transition. And so a lot of my readers being like in their 20s and 30s does kind of make sense because we are coming into a new identity for the first time. Literal, we are metaphorical trans children, if not the literal ones in our youths. And so there's that weird overlap. But no, the ones that stick with me most are like the trans readers that like, hey, I'm not out. I don't have the support system, but I saw myself in this character and I felt seen and represented. And I know there's a future where I get to go out and do these things that these characters did and like find their friends. And that gives me goosebumps, as I actively have.
That happened again. Yeah. No, but like literally, that was so touching. Like, I feel like really emotional hearing that. Just, I mean, kids, and youth, like, yeah, because specifically your novels are for trans youth. So, yeah, like, tell me about why you got into that specific, like, yeah, demographic, I would say.
Um, just because I like writing that age group of kids, I think. And I think a part of that's just because that's around the age that I realized I was trans. Like I knew that I was not cis starting around 15 or 16. And then it wasn't until 17 or 18 that I'm like, okay, no, it's more like I need to transition sort of deal. Um, and so I am very familiar with that thought process between the ages of like 15 to 18 and like knowing what I was thinking at the time, knowing what I was feeling, and just kind of like that sense of being trapped, that sense of like, when does the future come? It's just constantly high school all the time. And so I want to try and write for that age group for as long as I am close enough to it to feel like I'm doing it justice. Like, if I'm 40 and I can still tap into it, great. If I'm 40 and I'm very much hitting the Steve Buscemi, how do you do, fellow kids? Okay, I will focus a lot more on adult. But I feel like I'm close enough still to being at that age where I remember it with enough vividness to where I can try and tap back into it and say, hey, I remember this time. I know how it feels. Here's what I think I need to do here. Here's what you hopefully need to hear. And if not, at least you get a story out of it.
Yeah, that's so interesting because when we're talking about cis people, a lot of time when they're trying to write stories for youth, it's quite most of the time really awful because it's like it's like you don't know what they're talking about.
Yep.
But
How do you do, fellow
I
kids?
yeah, exactly. But because of like the lack of truthful like novels and stories that you are sharing as an adult, like it doesn't fit into that cis category of cis category of uh how out of touch it is because you're actually providing a space where trans youth can actually be like, oh yeah, this is exactly what I needed to hear, and so I think that's such a powerful thing, like a powerful like art, like you're doing what art is intended to be, is like making people feel seen. So yeah, that's just super wonderful.
Yeah. I've been messaged by a lot of Maxes, and
Max.
since that book has come out, and that has been equal parts heartbreaking and like very touching. If I literally I've my email's like, thank you so much. If you need anything, you tell me and I will find a way to get it to you.
Oh,
Um, like I can do anything for a kid in Texas materially, but like I can try if they want me to. So like
yeah,
they have
yeah.
gotten some very passionate messages back to their passionate messages where I'm like, thank you for reading. If you need anything, I will find you resources.
Yeah,
Like
which is
the positive Liam Neeson. I will find you and I will help you.
awesome. I will find you and I will help you. It's like threatening support. No, that's so great though. Yeah. I always feel like you might be in the future, you might be a mentor to some aspiring writers, like if you're not already, so they're probably
Not knowingly, but I don't know,
okay.
maybe.
Yeah.
I I have no self-esteem to be able to be a conscious mentor right now because I we've talked about all of this and I'm still like, but are you good at this? So maybe one day, yeah, I would like to do that, but not right now. God, I know.
Yeah. No, fair enough. Yeah, it's a whole thing to
Yeah,
to accept the relationship of mentorship and mentee. So
yeah, to be secure enough in yourself to be like, I am a teacher.
yeah, it's intense. Yeah. Yeah, like you would like I before I like taught a class, I I realized it's way more complex than just standing in front of I was like,
Yep.
huh. It's quite hard. Like so power to those who find it natural for them.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, like for jumping back to your novels, like can you talk about like the symbolism of camp of yeah, in Transpanic and yeah, there's so much there that can be worked with. So
So I actually, when I visited New York with my partner last year, yes, we drove out to where they shot the original Sleepaway Camp just to kind of like get a vibe check of it all. And you can't go on the original property; it's owned by somebody who keeps it private. But just like being out there and feeling that it's very, very isolated, despite the fact that it is surrounded in reality by a bunch of vacation homes. So it's not that isolated, but the drive up there, the going past all the farmhouses, the rural areas, the everything still had like 4th of July banners up, despite the fact that it was like not July really anymore.
mhm.
And so it's just like these very
Hmm.
small towns with like black and white photos of veterans in the 40s, and it's very surreal.
Hmm.
And so like the literal location, I think, works for like an isolationist feeling. Like you don't want these kids to feel like, okay, if we just book it for town, we're gonna be fine. Um, and then like metaphorically, symbolically, like they are isolated. They have come out here, A, to be isolated, but B, also to be among their friends that they don't normally see. Like these kids aren't all necessarily from New York. There are a couple like making the trek from Arizona, like to be out there with their friends and like other states, like specifically to come out here and to be with these people and to like feel that sense of safety in an
Hmm.
area that like maybe inherently isn't safe outside of this one specific little block of cabins and lake and such.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, just the setting of this is not your home, this is not school, this is kind of this weird third location that kind of like, I don't know people who went to camp. The only person I know who has been to camp is a friend who's a year older than me who camp counsels for kids. I don't think
Mm.
she ever went to camp. She was actively a counselor in camps. And so it's kind of that weird, I don't know if it's dying out with our generation necessarily. I don't but I also feel like it's kind of more of a religious thing to go to camp these days. Like whenever I hear about camps, they're always like church camps or Bible camps or like stuff on that angle of it.
Yeah, you're
And it's
right.
mostly for adults that I hear about like, oh, this is an adult gay camp or like adults get to go and like reclaim this thing that they might have done in their youths. And like it's not often you hear just like kids going to camp, at least not for me. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I as someone who also never went to camp, I went to like day camp, but that's not like the same as like spending a week to, because
Yeah.
because it's funny thinking about it because I had access to attend camp, but I didn't want to. And I was like telling my parents, I don't want to go with these strangers. And then I think it's been so long. I think my mom was like, yeah, I'm not leaving you with people I don't know. Like, so, but yeah, like yeah, there's so much attached to it. And yeah, this idea of like camp and adults claiming it now, like when it used to be like, yeah,
Yeah. And
like,
like the only two camps I went to as a kid were school sanctioned camping events.
yes.
Um, and
Uh-huh.
so we were in cabins, we had teachers everywhere. Like, even though we were out of state, like it never felt like we're in any form of danger. Like we are actively as safe as we can be.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's good. We need to be safe. Um, okay. So, if any of your books could be adapted into a film, which one would you choose?
Oh, that's asking me to pick a favorite child. Oh God. Selfishly, I would like the transition to be a film the most because that is the book that again, not to pick a favorite child. I very much feel like the Arrested Development, like, how dare you say I have favorites?
Yeah.
Um, no, the transition is the one where like the point of view, the world, the monster, the characters, the relationships, all of that I just want so badly to see externalized outside of my words and just see through other characters and like other people and other art interpretations of this stuff. Old Wounds, I always personally imagined as like an HBO limited series. So that's my workaround for that one. I always wanted Old Wounds to be like a limited series, and like I think that would be able to like give it the space it needs to breathe because I initially wrote Old Wounds as a screenplay, and like halfway through, I'm like, this is too long. This can't be a screenplay. Like this is a Dan Aykroyd like 800 pages Blues Brothers script. Like this needs to be condensed into a different format.
Okay. Yeah.
But the transition I think would work as like a 2 hour film, just focusing on Hunter and his friends and like that transition into a more confident person through the werewolf metaphor and just I want to see it be a movie so I can see the sequel in my head be a movie and I want to see these characters have life to them because they have so much life to me already just in my head still bouncing around.
Yeah. And also like werewolf movies still need a resurgence. I mean,
Correct.
yeah, like everyone's excited about Werewolf, the one,
Werewolf.
yeah, that's coming out. But we'll see. Is it gonna help research the genre?
I
Um,
hope so. I hope it resurges practical werewolves. I that is my one of the big reasons for my love of Ginger Snaps. I love that practical suit. I love all its jankiness. I love seeing that it's there and touchable and mangy. And the same effect just does not happen with CG. And I miss having practical effects like that.
yeah, so
Though I
real.
wouldn't mind be practical.
Oh, be practical. I feel like with him it's got to be
It's
practical.
gotta be. It
Yeah.
has to be. I'll be so
Yeah.
disappointed if it's not.
Yeah. But I'm curious, like, who would you want to direct it? Like your film, I mean.
Oh God, I don't know.
Yeah. Caught you on the spot. Yeah.
Oh gosh. I'm sure I could think of somebody. No,
Yeah.
oh God.
But no pressure.
I'm really drawing a full blank on names.
No, it's all good. I mean, we don't you can direct it too if you want. Like I don't know if you
Oh God, I'm
no.
not for my
Okay.
first one. I'll burn something
Okay.
else in my first movie. I need to do that one when I'm
Okay.
perfect at it.
Yeah, makes sense. But yeah, I'm aware of like time here, so I wanted to go into some like other questions before we wrap up with you. Um okay, so going into the personal stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, because I remember uh you weren't married when we talked before. So first of all, congrats again.
Thank you.
Yeah, so always excited to see like, a blossomed relationship. But yeah, speaking of, like I imagine marriage as someone who is not married, or even in a long-term engagement. How do you manage all of these commitments? You have your kitties, it's like, yeah,
Yep.
like how do you keep it all like together?
Oh God, a lot of it is just thankfully, my partner is a very forgiving and understanding, and he enjoys traveling with me when I go to events. He likes going to events, and like I think he has filmed 50-minute events for me just on his phone. Like he is very supportive and excited to just like be there and see me doing this stuff that is surreal to be doing in the first place. And I think I can't imagine being on the outside of that necessarily. Like it'd be strange to be the filming one, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, but no, he's just he loves hearing me talk about it, and I love getting to spend time with him talking about it. And he's a very good resource in a lot of things. He has selective mutism, so that is an aspect of transpanic that I
Mm.
continually went back to him on. Like he will be actively at work, and I'll just approach him. I'm like, "Hey, do you have 5 minutes so I can talk to you about this logistical question?" Um, he's extremely knowledgeable on so many different things, and I am going to continue to mine him for random bits and details. But no, a lot of it is just communication is the biggest one. That's a conversation we've been having since the beginning. Is just like open communication. We don't argue as much as we disagree, which sounds like a semantic, but like we don't have fights. We just kind of get into weird miscommunications where we have to sit down and say, "Hey, when this happened, I felt this. This is what I was trying to say. Cool." Like, and then just kind of like talking it out and figuring out what went awry or what was misunderstood or what we have to compromise on and just making sure that we sit down and have those conversations and we don't just assume like, oh, he did this thing, he hates me, or oh, he didn't do this thing, he hates me. Common theme in the mental illness there. He did this, he hates me. No, yeah, just communication, compromise, and just like always allotting time to have with each other. So like even if I've been wanting to write all day upstairs, but it's been a very busy day, I haven't seen him, I will typically put writing aside to like have that time with him and then just put off writing for a different time because I'm like, writing's not going anywhere. This is a living, breathing person that I don't want to go anywhere. I need to make sure I actively maintain this.
Yeah, oh, yeah, it's such a like you say, it requires a lot of like self-awareness and effort
Yeah,
on both sides. So
yeah,
yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, every time I hear it's like communication is always
yeah, always.
yeah. Wait, can I ask like what zodiac signs you guys are?
I am a Taurus. I'm April 25th, so I'm like just after the Aries Taurus cusp, and he is a Leo, July 25th. I think I have that right.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
because my dad's a Cancer. He's the week before him, so
Okay,
yes.
yeah. We're in Cancer season right now, I think, right?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Do you are you into astrology? Do you ever look into that or are you like, nah?
I am aware of it. I like knowing about it. I am not as into it as some people are.
Okay. Yeah.
Like I do figure out sometimes the zodiacs of my characters because I think it's interesting to talk to my friends who are into zodiacs because they're either like, yeah, or they like give me these huge eyes and I'm like, is that good eyes or bad eyes? Um, yeah, I like knowing it. It's a fun, interesting thing, but I don't necessarily like live by it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, for sure. It's nice that you use it for character work, like all the details of
Oh yeah.
character building. Yay. Um, and what is there any like advice you could give to people who want to like get their stories out there, but they're too like nervous about it or, afraid of being public? Yeah.
Yeah. That was a huge thing for me. Start small. Well, first focus on getting on the page. It does not have to be perfect, but as soon as it's out on the page and out of your head, you can start pulling it apart and toying with it. You could spend forever with something in your head, but it's in your head. It's always going to be shifting and changing. It's not until you get it in a tangible form that you can start looking at it big picture, small scale, like editing, moving things around, seeing how it fits. Um, the first time I went for an agent, I started just like swinging big when I was completely unprepared to even be on the field and got humbled extremely fast and extremely intensely. And so that put me back at the drawing board, and I said, okay. And so that's where being at university helped. I had these English classes that did constructive writing groups. And so I'd go in there, I'm like, hey, here's this chapter. We talk about it. They're like, here's what I like. Here's what I had questions about. Here's things that are probably going to get figured out in later chapters, and just really going through like small scale. Here's what works about this. Here's what doesn't work about this. Here's what my initial impressions are. And I could take that feedback any way I wanted to. I'm like, okay, they were right about this, completely wrong about this. And just, I guess, like having that confidence to make those decisions about criticism or like even in reading reviews where I'm like, okay, that's a very valid thing to feel or think or to have experienced. I have no pushback on that. Or it's you're just wrong. This thing was intended. This thing was supposed to be there. This thing makes sense in the story. I can dismiss that criticism as unfounded. And then once you've been with enough people going back and forth, um, just going for agents and people who like have a similar outlook on things, want similar stories, want similar genres. I got very lucky with Chloe, my agent, where we have like that similar joy of like the strange and fucked up with that romantic optimist heart in the center.
Uh-huh.
And so she's been amazing to have on this. And then just working with other editors and agents and finding people who enjoy the same thing, which is very easy to do once you start looking for it. Like once you start putting out there and reaching out, you do reach out and hit people in the same area and boat and stuff. And it can be hard to find people who necessarily like the healthy working back and forth. Like I've personally struggled with like giving my services and then not getting them back. And so I'm like, okay, that sucks. I gave you criticism, I got nothing back. Great, there's some wasted time, but it's one of those things where it just kind of comes to the territory of collaborative work where sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You can't take it to heart or personally or be overly self-focused when it doesn't work out for you. You just kind of have to keep going and keep looking for the next person that's going to be a helpful partner in the situation.
Yeah, it's just kind of like the theme again, the what was it, resilience and
Yep. Resilience and spite.
yeah, yeah. It's like just go keep trying. Like don't let
Yeah.
one door closing be the answer, Yeah. So that's
It's the
great.
meme of the guy with the pickaxe walking away from his wall of diamonds right before he's about to break through.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Okay, so before we check in on questions, oh wait, before I do that, I want
Yes.
to know, are you going to see Evil Dead Burn?
Yes, I have not bought tickets yet because the last time I looked, they were not on pre-sale, but I am going to go
Okay.
see it sometime this month. July got very busy very
Oh,
fast.
yeah, I bet.
Good
And
news though, I do live right near a theater, so I can literally just like drive over one morning if I want to.
okay,
So if in the next
nice.
week an opportunity has not presented itself, I will sneak out one morning while my partner is sleeping because I don't
Okay,
think he's
yeah,
going to want to see it.
yeah. It'd be like, I'm gonna go see them. Okay, nice. Yeah. So I'm curious when you do see them, your thoughts.
Oh
But
yes, I will message
yeah,
you.
so you have the ash tattoo, right? Like, is
Yes.
it? But we always have to show this off, like it's amazing.
My
Yay.
little Ash.
Yeah. Oh, actually, because I know you mentioned this before. Like, can you go into like, yeah, because Ash has a connection to how you chose your name, right? So,
Oh yeah. Basically I chose Logan as my first name.
mm.
Because around the time that I realized I was trans, we saw Logan in theaters, the werewolf movie, the Wolverine movie.
Oh.
Um, and then I had not seen Evil Dead 2 for some reason at that point. I think because my dad had characterized it as just a remake of the first movie. And so I'm like, okay, I'll watch the first movie, I'll watch Army of Darkness, like it's all fine. And
Mhm.
then I ended up watching the second one and just like that was really like the punch of like, oh, I love this franchise. And then loving that name Ash and like really sitting down and realizing how much of his storyline and the movies themselves are like easily interpretable as being about gender. And yeah, I just really like the name Ash and Ashley. And I'm like, well, I can't change my name, but I'll just tack it on with the handy little hyphen.
Yeah.
And
No,
now I
that's
have the world's longest identification card. It's fine.
no, that's great though, because then you'd be like, like it has a nice ring to it, Logan, actually.
Yeah, no, yeah, it is. I have not come across anyone with a name yet besides me.
Exactly. And then you don't have
Very
to
surprised if
worry
I knew.
about, yeah, people confusing you with another Logan, actually. So cool. Okay, so before we get into questions, I wanted to do this like quick, I call it like the feral five or feral four rather of like answering
Okay.
on instinct. So we'll do four actually. So
Sweet.
who is what's favorite horror movie?
Ooh. Right now, ginger snaps.
Okay. Favorite monster.
Ooh. Movie monster or just monster in general?
Sorry,
Movie monster or just
oh,
monster in general?
general.
Ooh. Professor Nightcrawler.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Nice. And your publishing world hot take.
Ooh.
Oh.
Marketing yourself is fake, and I don't believe anything ever works.
Okay.
Pure luck of the draw.
Nice. And if publishing was a monster, what kind would it be?
Oh God. Hydra, because every time one thing falls apart, two more pop in its place, for better or for worse.
Okay.
It
Oh,
is just a sea of heads.
oh man. Okay. Interesting metaphor. Like nice. Oh, actually, I want to hear this one since it's like
Okay.
academic. If academia was a monster, what do you think it would be?
Ooh. Medusa popped into my head. It looks at you too hard and you just freeze up.
So
Deadlines.
literally,
We brought it back.
we die. Yeah. Nice. Okay, those are really cool. All right. So I want to check in. Does anyone have any questions? Um, wait a second. Yes, from Alex. Oh,
Hello,
yay.
Alex.
Okay. Okay, so I'll read it here.
Okay.
With film being a big interest and area of expertise for you, and with film and novels offering very different storytelling methods, how does the relationship and translation of film to prose function for you as a writer? And if, oh, okay, if there's okay, and if
Second
time,
question.
yeah, second question. You mentioned writing old wounds as a screenplay. Are you still looking into pursuing film writing? Okay.
So first one first, thank you, Alex. For me, that's something I've heard a lot about my writing is that it feels very cinematic, and I don't know how to describe how I do that outside of just like everything I picture in my head is as a film were. And so I'm trying to write a scene. I'm like, okay, how does this function? Like I am the camera, my eyes are the camera. How am I looking at this scene? And so I just write as if I were transcribing a scene, basically. I don't have any better description than that. But like my love language is film. Like it really brought me back into writing, even though my first love was writing. Film is what brought me back into it. And so my internal method of viewing stories in my own head has become very cinematic and it's how it comes out of me. And I would love to do film writing. I am just also aware of how difficult it is. As someone who attempted to get a agent for screenwriting first before I got an agent for novels and such. Yeah, it's so hard to get into, but I would love doing it just because I like the format of screenwriting. I had a film class up in Reno where one of our finals was taking a film adaptation of a book that we read. So for me, it was Brokeback Mountain and rewriting a scene in screenplay format. And like that very small basic final was like Pandora's just like everything opened. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. And just like, I love the format of it. I love being able to play around with it, even though like everywhere online is like, don't add any flair if you want to sell it. Like, it's fun to do, like, write your flares, like, look at any of Sam Raimi's screenplays and just like, you can see his style even in his writing when there's not the funky camera angles to like visually see. You can see it in how he writes out everything and how everything is like structured. And it's just so different from novels, or at least most novels. There are a couple that kind of play with format and stuff like that where you can kind of see a similarity. But yes, I would love to if the opportunity ever presents itself. My fingers are crossed. Thank you.
Cool, cool, cool. Thanks for asking. All right, so I guess we can close, and I just have like these last two questions when we
Okay.
always end the episode. What are some books or media you recommend to someone exploring trans horror?
Ooh. Obviously, Andrew Joseph White, he's the heavy hitter of young adult trans horror for like deservedly so. Um, oh gosh, and there I love these questions. I hate these questions because I my brain immediately forgets every book and movie I've ever read, and it's insane.
I don't like. I feel like I should email you. I should have emailed you ahead to be like, think about. Oh,
I
my
need to
bad.
just keep a list posted on my wall of like these are things.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry,
No,
Hannah.
you're good. I
Asked
see
a
Hannah,
question. I
Q&A
didn't see
box.
it. Um, okay, we will do this now, actually. Hey, I'm currently writing an MA dissertation on body horror and trans
Ooh.
identity in YA, and the transition is one of my case studies. So this
Aw.
was super cool to listen to. Oh, some questions. Okay. Your novels are deeply concerned with representation of trans identity in film. How important is it to you as a trans author to subvert or rewrite harmful tropes and depictions surrounding trans people? Was it difficult to land on body horror as an avenue to explore trans issues in the transition?
Ooh, both very good questions. Thank you. For me, it was not difficult at all to land on body horror just because with the transition specifically, it came about when I was considering my own top surgery. And so as a method of kind of like going through that, I'm like, okay, what's the worst possible thing I can imagine like coming of this? And for some reason, the answer was werewolf, but like more specifically, it was the idea of like healing, quote unquote, wrong or like infection, like just all this gross body stuff. And then coming back to the book and the story after having it, I had a lot more like hands-on experience of like, I know what drains are now, and I've had to like peel my own blood out of these tubes twice a day. I've had to rewrap myself. I've had to like see all the ickiness that before was just kind of like theoretical and hypothetical. Um, and even then, like body horror as an avenue for trans horror specifically feels too obvious almost, just because whether you're talking about like an ability to transition, fear of like not really being trans and like doing the wrong thing, like that's an anxiety I feel like we all have. Like even now, I'm just like, but what if I'm not? Like it's too late for that. Come on. Or just like having that ability to transition be taken away and like having your body not be what you want it to be is a fear that is easily tapped into across the spectrum, even if you're not trans, like that fear of your body not being yours or looking away you don't want it to, or just like not doing the things that it should be doing is a trans fear, it's a cis fear, it's a disabled fear, it's a fear that cuts across all of those categories. And so for me, obviously, I'm like, trans, that's the avenue I write it through, but it isn't exclusively all it is. I'm so sorry. What was the first question? I know I answered the second one.
Uh, your novels are deeply concerned with representations of trans identity
Hmm.
in
Yeah.
film. How important is it to you as a trans author to subvert or rewrite harmful tropes and depictions surrounding trans people?
Um, it's one of those things where I always go into the story. I'm like, okay, here's just what I want to do. And then it kind of just always appears, the trope or the thing that like has otherwise existed in this medium. Because there are so few trans characters in media across the board that it can be hard to like definitively state this is a stereotype or trope because we can really only count a handful of instances before it becomes like a trope or a stereotype because there just aren't that many examples to pull from. Um, but for me, just like even not even phrasing of things, my brain has officially started to melt. I apologize. It is also hot as fuck over here in the US as well. Um, um, no, yeah, just having read and watched and dealt with so much transmedia across decades and across so many various authors, cis and trans alike, just seeing the various interpretations, seeing the way that people put thoughts into words and what they do or don't do. Um, it's very interesting to try and engage with the more negative aspects and be like, okay, what is this rooted in? What reality, if any, is there to this? Like, what are we working with? Um, like Old Wounds, that one was very, here's my rant about Boys Don't Cry, and also there's a monster. Just because Boys Don't Cry is one of like, it remains the pillar of trans masculinity in film because there just hasn't been another film focusing on it to the extent and success of which Boys Don't Cry had. And so people are like, well, that's a dated reference. And I'm like, it's still the best we got. It's still the one that everybody knows. Like, nobody else is going to know if I reference a film from 2 years ago because people aren't watching it or talking about it. And it probably didn't get the distribution that Boys Don't Cry did as this major studio Oscar winning movie. Um, And with the transition was interesting because it really wasn't a tackling of any one specific negative trope or stereotype of trans characters. It was more just the lycanthrope metaphor felt so ripe for a trans character to be in. And I just couldn't find anything that even broached that topic outside of like one or two Amazon original novels that were like erotica. And I'm like, okay, that's not good for you. Not really what I'm looking for here as in terms of like horror and identity and the body. And so that one was more, I wanted to create something from like the ground up, as it were. And Transpanic kind of goes back to that where I'm like, okay, here's this arguably the most well-known trope in horror of the singular trans character being this murderous monster. And even then, the trans character, like, arguably not being trans because the film doesn't want to box itself into that, it doesn't want to use language, doesn't know the language to use, just kind of leaves it kind of nebulous. And so for Trans Panic, I'm like, okay, everyone is definitively trans. That is a non-starter. Like, everyone here is not cis. And now we can get into the more interesting story of like, trans identity and discussing that language, there is a section of the book where they talk about how to refer to a character that was not out as trans in life and was known to them as a cis figure up until that point. They're like, how do we discuss this person? Is there a right way to do it? Is there a wrong way to do it? Like, how do we have this conversation about someone that isn't here? And that was very much taken from like films that I enjoy, like Dress to Kill and Silence of the Lambs and stuff like that, but like they have their flaws, which are obvious, and I wanted to kind of like invert that. And I'm like, okay, no more. I feel like I rambled, but hopefully that was a decent answer.
It was a good ramble, a great ramble. Yeah, but thanks for asking the question, Hannah.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah. No, there's so much, yeah, to think about in this whole conversation. I also realized it kept you way longer than I had told you, so I'm
You're good. This has all been good conversation.
okay, great. I was like, whoops. Uh, okay. So, last question for real.
Okay.
Because I keep bringing up random stuff, but for real. Um, where can people find your work or follow you on social media?
Yes. So on most socials, I am trans horrors. I have links everywhere. So like if you're looking for Letterboxd, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all of those should be trans horror. My Patreon as well should be trans horror, and just like um, books are anywhere books are sold, I believe. And then Trans Panic is going to be coming out in April of 27. I believe on the same day the Transition is also getting its paperback put out as well. So that's very exciting.
Yay! And you have audiobooks as well. So yay.
Yes, I have audiobooks for Old Wounds and the Transition, and I have not yet gotten news on Trans Panic, but that usually comes closer to publication date, so there will be one. I just don't know anything about it yet.
Okay. Exciting. Yay. All right. Well, that is it. Thank you so much, Logan, for spending time with me again.
Of course. Thank you for having me again.
But yeah, I hope you get some cold air coming in with the Vegas heat and everything.
You
And
do. Like we
yeah,
both have our fans.
yes. And thank you everyone for coming and asking the questions. It's been absolutely lovely. So yeah, have a lovely weekend and bye.
You guys did well. Thank you.